Hello, friends. Welcome to The Big Talk. We have talked about the power of story on this show so many times, and that by sharing your story, you can change and even save someone's life. But what about the storyteller? On this season, we are going to dive deep into how sharing our personal story can change and even save our own life. I am super excited to welcome our featured guest today, the incredible Gina DeVee. Gina, are you ready to drop in?
I am. I'm so delighted to be here, Tricia. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Gina DeVee's journey from struggling psychotherapist who lived at home with her parents to globe-trotting entrepreneur has led her to founding her multi-million-dollar women's empowerment company, Divine Living. Divine Living is for the person who's excited about impacting the world, craves a spiritual connection, dares to be visible, and desires to fulfill their life's purpose. Gina is an author, speaker, and success coach, and she has dedicated her career to helping clients connect spiritually, start businesses, create wealth, and live life to its fullest. Gina, take a minute to fill us in on anything I missed and talk a little about you.
Oh, well, thanks, Tricia. I mean, that's definitely the overview. I think that I know that every person has a story, and mine did start out not, super awesome or super awful. And I think that so many people in telling their stories, they think that they've got to, have had experienced some major tragedy, but always there's something that we're overcoming. And I overcame being broke and living at home with my parents, to having a beautiful business that I feel very blessed to have be an extension of who I am.
I love that. And before we started recording, we were checking in and catching up a little bit. And you were sharing a story with me that is not your personal story, but it's directly related to you. Would you share with our listeners this story that we started talking about?
Sure. So in March 2020, I came out with my first book. It's called The Audacity to Be Queen, The Unapologetic Art of Dreaming Big and Manifesting Your Most Fabulous Life. And, when you write a book, mine is filled with stories, and you just never know by showing up or making an Instagram post or showing up on YouTube and just sharing your story, where it's going to end up or whose life it's going to impact. I know you think that you do. You think it's either like the 14 people that are following you on Instagram or the people that have signed up for your newsletter list, but the universe is way, way bigger than all of that. And I just recently, and I have a membership called the Q Club, and the women in there were introducing themselves, and they were sharing how they got into this experience with me. And one of them shared that she had a corporate job and was let go, and during the pandemic, and found herself in a women's shelter, in a homeless shelter, and in that shelter, my book was on the shelf, and she picked it up and she read it and just started soaking it in and started to feel motivated and hopeful. And she got a job cake decorating. And when she went to go drop off a wedding cake one day, someone just asked her, like, is this what you do full time? And she's like, no, I'm really becoming a life coach. That's my passion, is to help people. And the bride to be said, well, I've been looking for a life coach. How much do you charge? And this woman it just shot out of her mouth, $9,000. And the woman said, great. And so it was just such a beautiful story of overcoming, and you never know where the miracle is going to come from, as long as you don't give up and you just keep showing up.
I love this, Gina, because you didn't literally tell her your story, which changed and saved her life, but she read the story that you wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so powerful. And I share with our listeners all the time that there's an urgency and a responsibility to us sharing our story. It's our responsibility to share it and to share our message in order to serve and to serve humanity and to serve the collective consciousness. I want to know, Gina, when you started sharing your story about being on your parents' couch,
Mm-hmm.
How did that enable you to step fully into your power and to give other people permission to make change in their life for a bigger, better purpose?
Sure. Well, I think that by the time I really started telling that story, I was, though I had a successful, relatively speaking, successful business, I was very invisible to myself. And I didn't realize how I came across online or even on stage, because I was speaking on a number of stages at that point. And I thought that people just wanted to hear about the success. I thought that people just wanted to hear about the mountaintop experiences. And then I started hearing feedback like, well, you can do that, but I can't, or it's okay for, and I was like, what is like, and then I realized it's because I didn't give the full context. Like they didn't see themselves in my story because they were only hearing about the ending, not the beginning. And it wasn't until I shared what just seemed so obvious to me. Like it just seemed obvious that doesn't everyone start out not great and like work to live a great life? And so I think that some of the juiciest parts of stories come from um, stating the obvious to you. It's just not obvious to everyone else. And you know, Joseph Campbell talks about what's most personal is most universal. So even though everybody listening, even right now, might not have been 30 years old living at home with their parents or $75,000 in debt, there might be something in there that you relate to, that you can grab onto for wherever you're at to get to where your dreams are.
And I love that you started at the top of this conversation saying, you know, I was living with my parents, I was in debt. It wasn't a trauma, it wasn't something horrible. I think it's really important for our listeners to understand that you don't have to have a trauma or something that you measure against someone else's experience in order to share your story. I've had speakers come to me and say, you know, I don't have cancer, I'm healthy, I don't have any death in my family, so who am I to talk about my life? Well, I'd love for you to go into that a little bit more, because every person has an experience of their life. By sharing that is going to touch someone else. So can you unpack that a little bit for us, Gina?
Sure. Well, every person on the planet has a purpose. And if you're here looking at what your big talk is going to be, and you want to be on some kind of virtual or offline stage, you have gone through what you've gone through for a reason. And with however great your life must have been, you have overcome a lot of obstacles. You've overcome a lot of challenges. And, you know, I don't think that any of us really rank things as much as you might think people do. Like I always say, like, she who makes the most money the fastest does not win, and she who has the most traumatic story, that's not what it's about. What it's about is you showing up to do your work in the world. And somebody needs to hear your story, and they need to hear your story and what you're doing and what your offer is, because that's how your life is meant to be used. And they're going to relate to you in a different way than they're going to relate to Tricia, or a different way than they're going to relate to me. And they're going to hear something through you that they couldn't hear the same way through anyone else. And had your story been different than exactly the way it is, there are no coincidences, you wouldn't be really fulfilling your destiny. So I think that there's a lot of relief we can gather when we get out of the thinking of the world and we really get into the human experience, which is everyone counts, everyone matters, everyone has a purpose, everyone has a destiny, and the story that you have lived and are living is the most interesting part of you.
That's so awesome. Yes, it is the most interesting part of you. And let's go into the reason that we're here, the uniqueness of our voice, and how you pull that out of your community members in order to help them have success in business.
Yes. So it's about full permission to be yourself. And there's not one path to success. And when you look around, and I'm sure there's different storytellers that you just are really inspired by. They really resonate with you. And you don't have to be everything to all people. You know, if anyone gives me a script, a bullet point, a slide, I will go into absolute shutdown. I was like filming a pilot for the Food Network one time. And like, they gave me like a slide on how to introduce myself. And I was like, hi, I'm Gina. Hi, I'm Gina DeVee. Like, I couldn't even say my name because it's not how I roll, you know? And so when I do even 3-day events, I don't have one note. I'm completely spontaneous. I'm completely in the moment. I trust my instincts and my intuition. And for so long, I made that style wrong. I was like, oh, I need to like have an outline and I need to tell people what's happening and I need to plan this out. And I made my own natural style wrong. And then, you know, there's something about the older you get, you know, certainly past the age of 40, I was like, I'm doing it my way. And so I've given myself permission to be spontaneous, to trust my intuition, to be in the moment. Other people, they like a 3-step process. They like a 7-part system. So like my people love the way I talk, but the people that are like trying to take notes and like need a teaching per se, I am not their person. And I let everyone know I am a motivator, an inspirer, and a transformer. I'm not a teacher. And so for people that have different styles, you need to know there's people that are craving that. Some want inspiration and some want to be able to take their notes and number their items, and that's how they learn best. So there's really not a right or wrong way with it, as much as give yourself permission to be you, and don't look around at others and think that you need to be like them. Look around at others in which who you identify with and give yourself permission to be in your full glory, whatever style that is.
I love this. So bottom line, do you?
Yes. Yes. My friend Ashley Stahl always says, who you are will always win. Who you are will always win.
Yes, amazing. I love Ashley.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about a story that moved you recently, Gina, that you were not expecting to be moved by, and why?
Mm. You know, I just launched this Q Club piece, and it's sort of like Gina DeVee Netflix meets Facebook meets Food Network. And in there, it's like this like social network for women, and there's a place for introductions because we know how much women crave relationship. And in the introductions, women are telling their story. And you know, going through one after the other, and just see like feeling the pureness, feeling the openness. There is a woman who told a story in there, and she said 10 years ago in 2010, 2 months before 2010, her father passed away, and I forget, her father and brother passed away unexpectedly. She didn't get into the details. And then 10 years later, in 2020, 2 months before her 50th birthday, that's right, it was 2 months before her 40th birthday, and 2 months before her 50th birthday, her mother passed away. And she said it not in a victim-y way, like she was just sharing, like she's like picking herself up to move on right now, you know, like she's like picking herself up in the day-to-day, and she's looking for hope and inspiration. And I just thought it was such a beautiful way to make an introduction. It wasn't like, hi, I'm Diane, I'm married, I have 2 kids, and I'm a business coach. You know, like I feel like I know her already because she started with a story, not like these features about her life. And it was just like woman after woman just saying, like, you know, one woman said, you know, I thought this was fun. She's like, hi, you know, hi, my name is, we'll just call her Jane Marie. And my kids are, and they all had first and middle names. And we go by our first and middle names. She's like, because all 3 of my kids have different dads. And we just thought the way that we could have common ground is by all go by our first name and our middle name. And it was just like such a sweet, like, personality that, like, she's so memorable to me now, like just because of sharing this part about her life. And I think that too many times we think the part of our life that's going to actually repel people is actually what makes us the most interesting, is actually what's going to draw people to us, is actually the thing that makes us most relatable, most adorable, and most lovable. And I think that especially right now, we're all craving deeper intimacy. We're all craving, the heart experience. Um, Life as we know it, it's over, and I'm not disappointed about that. I'm really excited about humans interacting, connecting, and communicating in a much deeper, authentic, and intimate way.
I love this. And you're specifically connected to spirituality and teaching your community to dare to be visible.
Yes.
I think we have to speak our truth, and it's our responsibility to be out there. And how do you get your community to be visible? How do you encourage, engage them in a way that gives them permission and the courage to put themselves out there in that way, and to actually have that connection that you're talking about with those women who are introducing themselves?
Mm-hmm. This may sound a little bit woo-woo, and I'm okay with that, because the other thing we do at Divine Living is we really base our way of life and business in feminine principles versus masculine. And the patriarchy has taught us that it's okay for a few people to be successful, and it's okay for a few people to be wealthy, and it's okay for a few people to be in power, and that there's not enough room for everyone else, and that it's a very competitive plane. And the masculine principles, in fact, are all about I. The feminine principles are all about we. And from a space of femininity, everyone counts, everyone matters, everyone's important, everyone has a purpose, everyone deserves to be successful. And so when you start from this feminine or spiritual perspective, and it's not this competitive plane, but it's really about the collective, it's about the we, there's something in our souls that knows this to be truth with a capital T. And we can kind of exhale in it, and we can get out of the excuse making, because even though the patriarchal philosophy has oppressed us and said it's not okay for us to be who we are, it's not okay for us to be deserving of riches or wealth or fame or whatever it is, when we also have unconsciously made an agreement that we're not okay, that we're not enough, that we're not deserving, then that's on us too. And I see women all over the world awakening and taking personal responsibility to think more highly of themselves, to raise their standards, to understand that the people that are out there, they didn't just get lucky, that they showed up even when they didn't feel like it. They showed up even when they were scared. They showed up to try a new way of sharing their message. And that in the showing up, that's how they've gotten their following or their success. And today, one of the beautiful parts about living at this time on the planet is we all have access to the global marketplace from the comfort of our own home. And it's about showing up and giving yourself permission.
I want to just highlight what you said, Gina. It's all fantastic. And I want to highlight for our audience that we are making an unconscious agreement. So for everyone who's listening today, choose to become conscious in what you are agreeing to align yourself with. Let's move into what you just said, that we are able to have global impact from the safety and comfort of our own home. You have been speaking on stages for years. You understand what that means. And now you're speaking from a camera, a screen.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the difference and how you've been able to be as impactful, to be as captivating, to stay as interesting, so that our listeners can get more comfortable with what it means to speak on a virtual stage.
One thing about the virtual stage is you can impact so many more people. I was in my Facebook group earlier today doing a pop-up Facebook group, and I don't speak on stages where there's 12,000 people in the audience yet. But my online stage, I sure do every day of the week. When you have a podcast, I don't know, I just started mine last month, and I think we have like 40,000 downloads. It's like 40,000 people sadly have not shown up at a Divine Living event yet. And so one of the things that's just been such a delight, people that for whatever reason couldn't get on a plane to come and be in the room for the stage to experience your greatness and the stage that you're speaking on, you do your marketing right, and they sure can pop into your Facebook and experience your live talk or watch you on YouTube or wherever the places you are. And I found that, in the old days, I thought about people. I didn't think about people. I thought about it as the numbers because my ego got involved. How many likes did I have? How many views? How many comments? And the more mature I get, the more humble my years in this industry have made me. And they're people. They're not views, and they're not likes, and they're not comments. They're human being people with a beating heart and a soul that is hungry for something more in their life. And when you speak from that place, there's such a level of intimacy. I think I did a challenge, I don't know, a few months back. It was my first one, and there were whatever, only about 4,000 people in that Facebook group, in that pop-up Facebook group. And I remember just like it was during like the riots in LA and Black Lives Matter. So it was a very emotionally intense time for everyone. And I really owned that from the form of feminine leadership. Like it was necessary for me to own this online stage and play my part in being a voice of peace and hope and uplifting this very hurting community, even when I too was hurting also. And the honor that I had to be a voice at that time, and I consciously was looking to create intimacy. I spoke from my truth. I spoke from my heart, not what I thought was going to be politically correct to say, which is just going to stifle it from the neck up. And the really fun part about speaking online is the chat box. At my events, I don't have a chat box. Whenever I say something interesting, I'll see people go right in their journals or whatever. So I'll be like, oh, maybe that point like really hit home, but I won't really know what they were thinking or saying. And now the chat box, it's like I get to read their minds like in real time. And the conversation can still be very much alive. And depending on how you set up your stuff, if you're on Zoom, you can still be bringing up callers. And so I have been so grateful to technology and the online space, and how humans are craving gatherings and intimacy. So it's always going to be different being in the room with someone. You know, like humans are always going to, I think, crave a human connection. And the human connection is not, as we have learned, always going to be possible for all different reasons. And there's a different kind of connection that gets to be created online. It's easier for people to watch your replay. It's easier for people to access it. You can reach way more people. You can read what's going on in the chats. So there's an ease. So I believe they're really win-wins. And I'm really enjoying the focus on having access to the global marketplace right now.
Amazing. I'm so glad that you joined us here today, Gina, and shared your story and shared a story that you indirectly saved someone's life essentially and taught her how to ask for what she's worth. That is an amazing thing. Thank you for being a featured guest today on The Big Talk. Where can our listeners get in touch with you, Gina?
Oh, Tricia, thank you. It's been so much fun. I've loved your questions. You can come over to divineliving.com/audacity. That's where I mentioned I have my book, The Audacity to Be Queen, but that link will get you to the free companion course for the book. You don't even have to buy the book, though I want you to, because I think it's going to bless your life. But if you want to just come check it out, there's videos, there's workbooks, there's a Facebook group. So come to divineliving.com/audacity. It's totally free. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Gina DeVee, or subscribe to my podcast, Divine Living.
Amazing. And we'll put all of this in the show notes as well. I hope that you will start sharing your powerful story today, and be sure to subscribe and click on that notification bell so that you get access to my newest and latest videos. And I really appreciate that you are here and will always respond to the comments. Big love.